thank you so much for joining tonight's industry briefing. I'm Lena, First Momentum's head of platform, leading also the community side of our business. We as First Momentum are investing actually in technical founders in Europe that are trying to solve really difficult problems. We usually invest at pre-seed stage. And Halford is also the Venture Scout community where a lot of you are part of, and also the Clueless No More community of, as we call them, aspiring scientist founders. So really great also to have tonight Anke Gratz from the DeepTech Climate Fund tonight here. We actually met at a really interesting conference. Also, I can only highly recommend it. Summer. It's always the festival for the future in English. It's probably or of the future. Festival der Zukunft here in Munich, where they bring together everyone who's trying to build a better future using tech by our friends from 1E9. So it was really great to meet you there, and that just kicked things off for having this chat tonight on green fuel. Anke actually has like a career in energy, you can basically say. You worked at Accenture, advising their also energy companies, then joined Vattenfall. And then turned an investor now at the DeepTech Climate Fund, which is actually plans to deploy roughly 1 billion across the next years, investing between 1 to 30 million. So to kick things off before we start also the presentation, I'm always asking this question. So Anke, also for you, how did it actually come about that you left Vattenfall and joined a VC fund?
Interesting story, really. When I was there, I was planning on working on digital transformation. However, that was in the midst of the Ukraine war kicking off and everything. So it was a very difficult time for energy companies in general. And of course, that was a tumultuous year for Vattenfall as well. They managed to get through it quite well, but still, it was lots of things were going on. And of course, it was a time where we were looking for innovative solutions as well. And I sort of got more and more into the innovation and tech space, and just decided this is my calling, and this is where I want to be working in the future. So looked for opportunities where I could do that, also in the investment context. And DeepTech Climate Fund was just setting up at this point, so the timing was perfect, and I could make the move. That was great. But yeah, now I'm here working on climate tech topics, and it's not just myself. I actually brought a colleague, Cristina. She just gave a wave. I hope she will be supporting the presentation as well. We usually work on these kinds of topics together, the green fuel topics. This should be an interesting input, not just from my side tonight. And I'm glad Cristina could join, and I'm glad we can be here tonight.
Cool. Then let's kick things off. And I know that there will be some interactive parts, but also if there are questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we get later to them, or just note them and later on we can discuss them during the Q&A.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'll just go ahead and try to share the presentation. 1 second.
Yep, works.
That works, perfect. That's the first challenge done here. All right, so we want to speak about green fuels tonight. You will see we have not done an investment yet in the space. However, we are very actively looking into it, and we do have some thoughts on it, and we've done some analyses of different companies, and also done our homework in regards to research, in regards to regulation and everything that plays into this topic. So what we would like to do tonight is just share our current status with you, and share with you how we see the topic. And of course, we're eager to learn your thoughts on the topic as well. So if you have any experience working in green fuel production, feel free to jump in, and we'll have a few slides where we'll actually be inviting you to share your thoughts as well. So don't be shy, and let's have a good walkthrough here. So Lena just introduced us a bit already, so I'm just going to jump into the agenda that we have for tonight. So what we would like to do is just give a general overview of the green fuel topic and what our focus is in the area. Then we will quickly look into technologies and production routes, We will also share our VC perspective and how we actually compare the different companies that we look at and what the differentiators are that we have identified in the market. We will then talk a bit about the market momentum we currently see and just give you a bit of an outlook and a few key takeaways that you can take with you and maybe discuss further then. All right. Good. So, of course, our motivation is looking into green fuels, is decarbonization. We are DeepTech and Climate Fonds. We definitely have a climate tech angle to a lot of the things that we do. So we're definitely going to be motivated by driving decarbonization in different industrial sectors. And of course, transport is right at the top of the list, or with a few other topics at the top of the list. More than 20% of global emissions stem from the transport sector. And not all of them can be driven down with electrification. Of course, a lot of that is possible, especially if you look into passenger transport. Cars and vans can be electrified quite easily. Gets a bit more difficult maybe in the freight industry. Heavy trucking is definitely something where electrification could happen, but also there are other technologies on the agenda here that are currently in development. So that's a subsector that's currently a bit undecided from our point of view. Where we definitely see a hard to abate subsector is, of course, international shipping and aviation. So in regards to what we currently focus on, this is definitely it. We're going to be focusing on decarbonization of the shipping and the aviation sectors going forward. So what does that mean? There are several decarbonization options for these sectors. Of course, you might have heard about biofuels, especially in aviation. There are a few biofuels available that are currently in the market already. So if you look into passenger transport as well, you've seen the HEFA route, probably hydroprocessed esters and fatty acids. So these are derived from waste oils, used cooking oils, for example, and also ethanol-based biofuels that are already in the market. They're produced mainly from sugarcane and other crops. And of course, these are all biomass-based. So we are going to be, one second. Right. This is definitely something that's currently in the market already. And what we are looking into as well is the growing focus on second generation biofuels. However, we think, and based on current research, not just us, that the scalability is a bit in question here at this point. So in regards to looking at land use, there is going to be competition for a lot of these biofuels in regards to just having the space that we would need in order to decarbonize. And we are therefore looking into renewable fuels of non-biological origin, so RFNBOs, which means e-fuels and synthetic fuels. So this is everything that's not reliant on biomass. And of course, within that, we're looking into aviation and shipping. So this means for aviation, it's quite clear, synthetic aviation fuel. And in regards to shipping, it could be methanol, which looks quite promising at the moment. But there are also other emerging alternatives. For example, ammonia and e-diesel are being explored. All right. So that's the motivation behind our looking into the topic. If we look into how e-fuels are produced and what they actually need to be green, we have sort of looked into the production processes a bit. And of course, what you need to produce synthetic fuels is you need clean electricity and you need CO2 that stems from a renewable or a non-avoidable source. So that's super important. There are a few additional criteria on this. If you dive deeper into green electricity, there is a requirement for surplus renewable energy to be used. So it has to be a new electricity source currently. So that could be either a new energy asset that is going to be onboarded into the market. If you're looking at carbon sources, it could be captured carbon. It could be direct air capture, but it could also be unavoidable emissions from industry. So of course, all of that means that e-fuels are carbon neutral, which means that we pull CO2 from the atmosphere, but there will be emissions from combusting e-fuels as they are used. So it's a carbon neutral technology. And that is difficult to understand sometimes, that it's not completely CO2 emission free. So we are aware of this, but of course, if you have hard to abate sectors, this is the route you're going to take. Okay. We're going to talk a bit about the technologies and production processes. And for that, we have Cristina here on board, who has a technical background and can dive deep into this.
Thank you, Anke. As Anke mentioned, the beginning of the value chain is kind of the same for the different liquid fuels. At the output, you kind of have different markets and products. Starting with the methanol synthesis, it's a cornerstone for chemical industry and also as a fuel for the shipping, something that we currently also try to look into. Then you kind of have the Fischer-Tropsch synthesis. It converts kind of syngas into synthetic diesel, kerosene, and gasoline. So kind of providing a sustainable alternative for the aviation sector. Also something that we kind of look into. Then you have the methanation process. It converts the hydrogen and the CO2 into green methane. Can be a viable substitute for the natural gas various industrial application, but currently mostly used as the energy storage component. That's what we currently have seen. And last but not least, the Haber-Bosch process is synthesis of ammonia. And ammonia currently also is recognized as a clean energy carrier. At the end, what centers the technical innovation, we have seen that you kind of need to have a boost in the process efficiency. For example, this could be like the heat management and the reactor design to kind of minimize the energy loss that is happening there. Also refining the process calibration is important. It ensures the optimized syngas composition to kind of meet diverse product qualities that are required from the customers. Something that we also currently see is an innovation in the material. This means kind of a development of advanced catalysts to kind of enhance the reaction rates and also to reduce at the end CapEx and OpEx costs. Also important for us, or I think also for the startup, should be the kind of that the scaling is made simple. This means at the end to kind of have a modular system or a containerized system design that you kind of are able to scale rapidly and cost efficiency. And maybe here also the question to our listeners: did you see any other innovation drivers?
So that basically, feel free to raise a hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean any other innovation drivers?
The different processes, yeah.
For the
Yeah,
different
exactly.
processes, yeah.
Okay, not for now. Maybe we can take this up later on. Okay. So maybe then we just go and give a bit of our overview in regards to what kind of companies we're currently looking at. So this is definitely a non-exhaustive list that you see here. We are not speaking to all of these companies. Some of the companies we speak to are not on the slide. So if you're missing one of the companies that you are following here, feel free to let us know. But yeah, this is a sort of general overview to give you an idea of what kind of companies are in the market. So there's definitely different ones. We see companies that have been in the market for quite a long time. We see companies that are really taking off and yeah, are just growing very, very quickly. Of course, the existing industry is part of innovation as well. So for example, if you look into Cafenia here, German company, they used to be a spin-out of Lufthansa. They're currently working on their first pilot plant and yeah, are looking to scale the business model as an owner-operator. So they're going to be active in the entire value chain, selling e-fuel, aviation fuel to airline customers. So they're definitely deep in the value chain, owning everything. Then also we have project developers like Liquid Wind, for example. Some of you might know the company. They're quite visible, especially in the Nordic market. They're really experienced project developers. So for example, you might know their flagship projects that they are co-developing, especially with different energy companies. Then we have companies like Eneratech, for example, also a German company. They're a spin out of the KIT, the University in Karlsruhe. And they are, Cristina just mentioned, they're looking to scale quite rapidly. So they have a containerized solution that scales really well. That's definitely some of the range that we see in the SAF market. We also have, in regards to methanol, Airlium. They are a methanol company and have just raised a financing round. I think it was 6 million, right? 6 million with quite an impressive consortium as well. So there's definitely things happening in the methanol space as well now. And of course, in regards to base chemicals, we have a few companies who are, let's say, more focused in the value chain. For example, Cyclyze and Anodyne, they're producing syngas, which is the, let's say, first step that we saw on the slide before. So with that, you can basically venture into the Fischer-Tropsch process, for example. That's one of the inputs there. So there's a wide range of business models in the market. Companies are growing at different speeds. Some of them have really a sort of industry-like approach, looking to develop projects really quickly. Some are more in the R&D space still. So there's definitely a lot of things happening, but at different speeds and with a different focus. So looking into all of this, we continue to go into the differentiators that we saw. And these are basically the main things that we look at when we talk to new e-fuel companies.
We kind of think that startups should have, at the end, a high technical readiness level to kind of demonstrate their scalability. Also, I think it's important that you outline a clear roadmap from the lab scale to the commercial scale production. And preferable, there is data that you can look into and to see the performance and also kind of build a credibility on the new technologies development that has happened. We also think that the product calibration is an important topic to mention. This means the product must meet quality standards with a robust calibration to accommodate diverse customer needs. One thing that we also have seen is kind of to choose your location for your demo plant in the right way, because at the end, you're working in a value chain with different, I would say, partners, and you should kind of choose them right to also have the green input at the end for your end product.
Yeah. In regards to the business side, I'm sorry, I skipped this a bit. In regards to the business model, we definitely have two major business models that we see. So one is the owner-operator business model, which is Cafenia as an example. You basically own everything. You're vertically integrated, and you own operations, you own the sales, everything. So for that, it's really important that you have customers that can actually carry this business model, and then that you can manage sales, but also that your technology can scale really quickly, so you can make sure you can meet demand. Then we also look into market flexibility. So in regards to business models, the other one is definitely a technology platform. And in regards to market flexibility, this gives you some more opportunity if it doesn't work in regards to sales. What kind of other products could you potentially offer to B2B customers? So if you, for example, produce syngas, you could sell that to a company who does the Fischer-Tropsch part of the process, and could sell the end product, which is SAF, so sustainable aviation fuel. So there's definitely some, let's say, de-risking in terms of market, if you're flexible, if you're well partnered, but also if you understand really well where your focus lies in regards to the depth of the value chain. What of course is important as well is the topic of competitive pricing. There is a green premium still on e-fuels. especially sustainable aviation fuel as well. There are two aspects to this. So the first one would definitely be you need to be competitive in terms of other alternative production routes. So sustainable aviation fuel is a commodity, basically. If someone else can produce it a lot cheaper, it's going to be very difficult to compete with them. The other aspect, of course, is you have to have a strategy to meet the green premium gap that you have in terms of pricing. So, for example, you could look into partnering with larger companies. You could look into partnering with your customers. There's some strategy to mitigate the pricing risk in this case. Okay. In regards to de-risking, we of course have the advantage, especially in the e-fuel space and aviation, that the whole topic is currently pushed by regulation quite a bit. So there is market momentum that's definitely going to be fueled by policies that are coming in. The RED III directive, Renewable Energy Directive 3 by the European Union requires 1% of RFNBOs in transport. So this is the entire transport sector by 2030. There's specific sector targets for aviation. 1.2% of synthetic aviation fuels are supposed to be present in 2030, and this should go up to 35% in 2050. It's important to know that also biofuels have quotas here, and the entire decarbonized fuel quota should be about 70% in 2050. So around half of this should be synthetic fuels. And of course, there's a penalty for non-compliance. So customers, airlines can basically choose whether they would like to pay a bit more for green fuels, or whether they would go for fossil fuels but pay the non-compliance fee. In regards to the maritime sector, we do not have specific sector quotas, but we do have GHG emission targets. So there's a reduction target of 2% by 2025, still a bit lax, but up to 2050, we're supposed to reach 80% of decarbonization. So of course, that drives sustainable fuels in the shipping sector, and methanol, ammonia are definitely going to be high on the list there. Also, this quota is going to, or the emission target is going to decrease every 5 years. So there's definitely going to be some momentum in the market going forward. And also there's a penalty for non-compliance here as well. So you're paying a fee if you're not using sustainable fuels. You can see this on the right as well. There are a few more policies that either adhere to fuel producers or fuel consumers, but the sector targets and GHG emission targets are definitely the ones that have quite a large effect. What we also currently see is that the customers are definitely, especially in the aviation industry, are definitely working with the regulators here on this. So we've seen quite a bit of offtake agreements in the space. 43 or more major airlines have already entered into offtake agreements with e-fuel producers as of September this year. So that's quite a few major airlines. And we can see by that the customers are actually trying to work towards reaching their decarbonization goals, and they're not going towards just paying the penalty and continuing to use fossil fuels. Okay, we're almost at the end of our presentation here, and hopefully we'll have a good discussion after that. I'm going to hand over to Cristina for giving us a quick summary.
Yeah, maybe to sum it up and to have, I would say, at least 3 takeaways from this presentation. I would say the most important is that to decarbonize the transportation, you need kind of e-fuels. For the aviation and for the shipping industry, electrification is just not feasible. So there should be or need to be e-fuels. I think currently investing is still a challenge because the startups are kind of early on. So you kind of need to take the tech risk at the end. But I think for the future market and demand for it justifies also the premium prices, and also kind of customers are willing to pay it. And I think the last but not least point that it's important, collaboration is crucial. So partnership across different sectors, I think, are essential to scale your business and kind of to have an investment alignment at the end, to sum it up.
Exactly. All right, I think this concludes our presentation so far. This was our input. We're looking forward to hearing your perspective. I can see a hand from Misha.
Yeah, thanks a lot for a great presentation. Really interesting topic. Unfortunately, I don't know much in this space, so my questions probably will be a bit dummy. Yeah, probably the first question is regarding fuel cell and hydrogen potential in general. The thing is that I was following this kind of trend in automotive industry, and I saw that, for example, BMW, Toyota were investing quite heavily in that, but then they faced challenges related to infrastructure and some kind of also probably some kind of regulatory support in order to make fuel cell electric vehicles more popular, etc. And also, so probably the first question would be if and it feels like within automotive industry, this direction probably a bit like slowed down or stopped. Not sure, not 100% sure. If talking about shipping aviation, what is your view on potential? Talking about hydrogen, and probably if you heard about any changes in automotive industry, also related to hydrogen, yeah, it would be interesting to know.
Okay, I can maybe start and then hand over to Cristina, because she's definitely a bit more into the hydrogen topic in general. I think for road transport, especially when it comes to passenger cars, what we're currently seeing is that electrification is more widely spread than hydrogen use. We can see that especially charging infrastructure is being deployed across Europe. It's getting more and more popular. So for us, of course, we want to look at other technologies, but it's definitely a bit more mature in the market. So from the VC perspective, we would say this is something that is working. The technology is not deep tech anymore. So for us, this is not our focus. We are definitely looking into the sector that are harder to abate, and this is definitely shipping and aviation. In regards to using hydrogen there, it's definitely part of the production processes that we've seen. So of course, for all the e-fuels you need to produce hydrogen first, and this has to be renewable. So you need the proper inputs for that. Nevertheless, in regards to shipping, we're not entirely sure which e-fuel is going to be leading in the future. For aviation, it's a bit different. There are a few production routes that are possible, but in the end, it's going to be the same product. And I think this is more difficult in the shipping sector, where there's several options that could lead the market, really. Anything to add?
I would say at the end, I would look at all the news that are currently coming out, for example, from Mars, to see who is like the driving fuel for them. Because I think there is not made a decision internally in the big corporates. So it's hard to say which one will win at the end, because the market is still kind of in the future. So it will be probably a topic for the next year to decide. Also in the chemical industry, it's not known if the basis chemical will be ammonia or methanol. So I think it's like a way for the future, but not sure which one of them will probably like the end use.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. Probably one more quick question. I saw like probably British startup, the only one related to hydrogen, the one I saw. And they mentioned like on their landing page, they mentioned like hydrogen is the future fuel for aviation. Is it too strong statement or it's feasible?
Well, it depends on the aviation, or yeah, it depends on the airplanes you're looking at. There are ranges where it might make sense to use hydrogen if we're talking about sort of mass transportation via airplanes. We're looking at large airliners, and for these, at least the research is currently going towards, mostly leaning towards, e-fuels, not hydrogen.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
At least that's our understanding, but feel free to enlighten us here if you have different information. Okay.
I mean, just a quick question. Is it related to this one?
No.
Okay, then quickly, I want to jump in one question that I want to ask, because this is really interesting, Cristina and Anke. So does this mean also for VCs, it's better to wait and sit this out a little bit until they invest into one winner?
It's a very good question, especially for us, because we are not seed investors. We usually focus on Series A companies. So we definitely look at market timing. And we definitely look at what is developing in the market, and whether in the near future we'll be able to determine if there's one option that's going to be prevalent in the market. We're not entirely sure yet, to be honest. We will definitely continue to look into, especially also the shipping industry and what is going on there. But yeah, there's currently uncertainty in terms of which product is going to lead, and this is clear.
Cool. Yeah, go ahead, Armin.
So I just have two quick questions. I think they are in the same direction. One is the which side of the cycle are you more focused on? Are you only looking at the e-fuel production side, or also do you look at the combustion side of it? Because I saw, for instance, like catalyst on your slide. Do you also look at the solutions that are bringing in catalyst to also reduce then the emissions that comes afterwards from, for instance, combusting methanol, right? So because most of the time it's not complete process, you can get carbon monoxide and so on, and there are a lot of catalyst technology on that side of the cycle. Do you also look on that one as well, or not?
Regarding like methanol, we look at companies that kind of make the process more efficient. So to be like in the price range for the industry, because we think if you have the kind of the premium price, it won't work out. So we dare more or less look into startups that at least have some KPIs that in the process are better. So I can say it for this sector. And regarding the whole value chain, we actually try to look at it from the end, because there's currently a market growing. So we think to kind of have our opinions there, it's easier for us to make decisions. And going really at the beginning of the value chain, it's kind of hard currently to see which one will be like going forward. But yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, just as an example, I just recently came across like a solutions that there are ships that are carrying LNG, right? And then they would be preferred to basically combust the LNG for themselves as well. But then on that side of combustion comes a lot of pollutants that you need to be able to capture that. Otherwise, a lot of those ships in near future would not be able to come near Europe because there would be regulations and so on. So there are technologies also on that side of the cycle, and those could be also interesting. It's not e-fuel or it's not sustainable fuel by itself, but then it's already a clean solution, right?
That's a very good point, actually. I think what we usually do is we follow the regulation a bit at first, but this is definitely on the horizon. And it's a good point. I'm definitely going to note this down and see what we can find in that space. Thank you for mentioning this.
And just another very quick question, because you mentioned on one of the slides and you asked a question on what other side of this could be an innovation. I mean, I don't know if you look at that or not, but there could be a lot of innovation on the side of transport, and that includes liquidification technologies and then also container technologies. Because if you want to have hydrogen as a fuel, you first need to have the container being able to carry that and also being able to liquidify that with a less energy intensive solution, right? Or also a cleaner solution.
And then you also kind of need to have the crackers, because transporting hydrogen is kind of...
I lost your voice. I think you went on mute.
Cristina, sorry, that was me. Your Anke, your tone, your sound is because I think there was
All right. Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Not sure what happened.
No, a good point that you mentioned, and we also see it like transporting hydrogen is kind of dangerous. So you will do it probably with ammonia or with methanol. So also these cracking technologies for Germany will be, I think, also crucial. It could be like worth looking into. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Great. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the discussion.
Sure.
Jitin, you're next. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey guys. Thanks for the great presentation. I'm also not from the space, but um, yeah. So like just coming to the e-fuel side, I don't know if any of you follow Formula One, but they've been on this journey of e-fuels and biofuels for a couple of years now, and most of their technological innovation comes from the big petroleum companies that sponsor them, talk Shell, Aramco, Petronas, etc. But something you said in a previous answer kind of prompted me to ask the question, are we really in a pre-seed stage when it comes to e-fuels? Because from that perspective, it's like really big, massive conglomerates also working in the same tech space. So just from a market perspective, I'm not sure if this would still align on the same, point of view.
You'll definitely have competition from established incumbents, I would say. That's definitely true. However, you have a bit of an innovator's dilemma in that space. So they make their money with fossil fuels and they like making money with fossil fuels. So of course, with the regulation coming in, yeah, they're looking into this as well. But perhaps it is easier sometimes for a smaller company to actually get the momentum and grow quicker and yeah, demonstrate in the market what you would like to produce in the end. And of course, we're not going to be investing in any oil and gas majors anytime soon. This is not what we do. So we're definitely going to be looking at innovative startups, scale-ups that come up with new technologies and are trying to make existing technologies more efficient. And I think these were the innovation drivers that we mentioned as well. We are aware that these processes are not new. Some of them are decades old. If you look into Fischer-Tropsch, that has been around for decades and it has been proven, but it hasn't been developed at scale. And I think getting this into the market quickly and making sure that we can scale it quickly, that's the challenge now. And wherever, yeah, can make it more efficient, that's great. We're going to be looking into that.
Yeah. Another question I had was regarding the hydrogen fuel concept. Perhaps not from a transport perspective, but if you were following the news, like maybe a couple of months ago, even there was talk of Germany just basically buying green hydrogen from I'm guessing Algeria, if I'm not wrong, and using the pipeline process to get that green hydrogen into the continent, into the country, and using it. I guess their perspective was more from a industrial usage prospect as opposed to transport. Perhaps from an aviation perspective, it's not that safe. Obviously, the standards for safety are much higher, but do you see that in the shipping space for that, in that market as just as hydrogen being the fuel source?
Honestly, I can say it at the moment because there are so many options how you can go, and you may need to make your own hypothesis on that. But at least you kind of have a range where you are looking into and track like the market, what is happening, and where like the funding goes. So this would be like my honest answer to that.
Also, last question.
Sure.
I'll mute myself after this. Coming to the ethanol mixing concept, which is very much in. I'm from India. It's very much in use in India, where they use sugarcane crop as an ethanol mix in domestic fuel transport, like for cars, bikes, and trucks, etc. And this has been in use for maybe half a decade now. This was, I think, pre-COVID that they started this. So, but there has been a growing trend of, I don't know if this is causality or correlated, but there's been a growing trend of what do you call lower efficiency in like the vehicles that use this fuel, which were because India is such a price sensitive market, this is very much visible. And lower efficiency means, yeah, it's just more carbon in the air. So is this really a win game in terms from from an environmental perspective, of course, market perspective, perhaps it could be, but from an environmental perspective, is this really a win, or are we just making the process more inefficient in the long, across the value chain?
Well, if you want the most efficient way to decarbonize road transport, I think you're looking at electrification, to be honest. And I think this is where, especially in Europe, especially in Germany, the regulation is going. Of course, for now, we do have this quota in road transport fuel as well. But yeah, in the long run, at least that's my personal opinion here. I think it's going to go towards electrification because it's just the most energy efficient use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But of course, there are other technologies, and I'm not going to say we're not going to look at anything that is not exciting to us. So if there's a very interesting new technology that's not electrification, it's definitely going to land on our desk at some point, and we're going to have a look at it. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you for your answers.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, Anna, go next.
Hello, and thanks also from my side for the really cool presentation. It was really nice to get these insights. I was very interested to hear when you separated between kind of like the biofuels and then the hydrogen. And you said that for biofuels, usually you struggle with problems related to scalability. I myself come from Finland, and I have some touch points to the Nordic market in general, and I feel like there this topic of biofuels is much more pushed. And also, I think there we have a lot more material available. We have lots of forests, we have lots of biomass. So maybe from your perspective, would be cool to hear, is it something where you also need to see strong regional differences? And you could say that, okay, we can see that in a specific location where you have specific setting available, then that would make more sense to you also from the investment perspective.
It might actually. Of course, there are regional, let's say, differences in production. However, we're definitely going to be looking at a global market as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think our perspective, we're zooming out a bit, especially when it comes to shipping and aviation. But of course, there's definitely going to be space in the world where this land use can happen for biofuel and the respective crops. However, we are going to have a growing population, so there might be other uses regionally as well that might be favored by policy that's going to come in terms of food security and in terms of biodiversity regulation, this kind of stuff. So I don't think we are in a world where energy policy will always take precedent above everything else. And if you take the global perspective, which we do on this, this is the conclusion that we currently come to. But of course, this is in the future, we might have to change our view on this. Currently, we're looking at decarbonization, and our understanding is that biofuels aren't endlessly scalable. So that's the working hypothesis, I would say. And I think we had it on the last slide as well in regards to this is a must believe. It might change in the future. If this changes, then our focus might change. This is definitely going to be a work in progress.
Totally fair. Yeah, thanks. Then maybe another very quick question. I just looked at the percentages of the sustainable aviation fuel, and those numbers are really low. And I know, like, it's super hard space to drive innovation in and change in, and I think that that's probably where it's coming from. But like from a also conscious customer perspective at the end of the day, is there anything that you can see in the future that's going to really drive a difference? Because that's just depressing, to me, honestly.
It's a very good point. I mean, the thing is, sustainable aviation fuel, or especially synthetic aviation fuel, currently is a lot more expensive. So it actually does make sense for airline customers or for the aviation industry to pay the non-compliance fee. But what we would like to see in the market is for e-fuel production companies to be able to show the kind of price production cost efficiency in the next few years, and then sort of scale this and just make sure that we have price incentives going forward. So in order to do that, we need a few more companies in the market, and we need them to get the processes right. So as soon as we have that, I think we can take it from there.
Yeah.
But at first, we would need to scale these companies a bit more, and then we can take it from there.
Totally fair. Yeah, no, I just also checked it for myself. Like if I want to buy a sustainable flight for myself, it's quite expensive. It's pretty much double the price. So I can totally understand. Thanks so much for your answers.
Thank you.
Yeah, super interesting. And I have one question that actually fits there, like, because this was also when I looked at the goals, like also everything like around evolving around 2050, basically, when we're all pretty old already. Like, is this, would you really say they are realistic goals, or they're like, but due to also like the TLR levels we're at, that like just from a technological perspective, it's really, it will that take that time to reach? Or would you say, no, there is just also a lot of push from, the airlines and aviation and shipping to not go too fast?
It's a really good question. I think it is realistic. I think like also this CO2 footprint thing is the only tool that the government kind of can use to drive innovation. And I think in a few years, we will be at the point that companies and technologies are at the scale that they can and will produce economical. And then there's the question, why not choose the better way? So our hope, or my hope, is that you in a couple of years are at that point with the technologies that they can produce at the same price how like the gray options. So I think like we are currently in a way to going there. So I see it more or less really realistic that it will happen, the change. And we kind of also work here internally and try to push also this decarbonization startups.
Yeah. I think what we see currently in the market is, or what is a very promising sign, are the offtake agreements. Yeah. So if you have customers actually supporting this entire concept and realizing there's a value in actually offering this to end customers, to people who fly from one country to another, and who would appreciate a more sustainable journey, really, then I think you have the right signals in place. And it's a first step, of course. It is the hockey stick kind of scenario. We are aware of that. But yeah, it's definitely a step in the right direction, at least from our point of view.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Michael, you want to go next? Waiting for a long time.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for a cool presentation. My question was actually along the lines of the previous ones, because of course prices have to come down for production. Do you have like numbers or like a hypothesis for by how much they actually need to come down for like different types of fuels for them to really take off? My personal impression is that for a lot of them, they don't necessarily have to compete like one-to-one with fossils, but like they can't be like 4 times as expensive as what is around right now. Yeah, would be curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah. What we have seen is that from like the normal prices just almost double, and to go double down, it's not a really hard way, and you kind of need to understand how to do it. So like, for example, premium methanol currently, I think there was like from the Cleantech Europe, a study coming out to like kind of see the different prices between like gray, I would say methanol and premium methanol. And for gray, it's like, I think 700 euro the kg. And for premium, it's like 1.5. And it's not that far away from each other. And the startups that we are currently looking into also are in the range of the premium prices. And I think it's not that far away. So it's all kind of.
Is this for e-methanol or for biomethanol?
Yeah, e-methanol.
Okay. And you'd say that with the existing technology, we could actually come down to, say, $700 per ton?
Yeah, I think like you need to understand what the unit economics is and what is kind of driving the costs in the production process. And if there's like a way forward, it's possible at the end. So.
Yeah, it's also, there might be optimizations in regards to inputs. So if we look into locations where electricity is really cheap, for example, of course, your end product is going to be a lot cheaper. So this is what's driving the prices in a lot of cases. So there's regulation that's coming in that's promoting exactly this, like put your plants in a location where input is cheap, And this will drive down the prices, at least that's the hope. But of course, again, this is one of our working hypotheses, I would say. If we see it going in a different direction, then we might have to change our focus. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just have one very last question in the same direction, and that's like, how much of a percentage do you put on the infrastructure update and investment that's required then to deliver these fuels? Because I believe the technology that we are talking about mostly is on the production side, right? But then there would be a big shift in the infrastructure to deliver these, right? And that would be probably also require large investment. Do you also look at that side of the hypothesis? Because I think you would need eventually, right?
It depends a bit on what kind of product you're looking at. If you're looking at synthetic aviation fuel, that's a drop-in fuel, so that doesn't require that much infrastructure change. Of course, if it comes to shipping, it's a bit different. But yeah, for us, we try to look at fuels that do not require a lot of infrastructure investments. So this is definitely what we are going to be looking for. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one final question also from my side. I mean, as a lot of people here are also scouts. What are you seeing are typical issues that startup founders in that space are struggling with?
Yeah, I would definitely say this is, to be honest, this is our motivation as a fund as well. We look into Series A investments and up. It's usually really, really hard to get through that time for a startup that has an asset-heavy business model, like it usually is in e-fuels, to get from building a large enough pilot plant to getting to the FOAC plant, so the first of a kind actual industrially sized plant. And that just requires a lot of capex, and you might not always have a technology that is as de-risked as an infrastructure fund, for example, would like it to be. So that's a very difficult time to fundraise, and there's not a lot of funds available in the financial space that do that. So we're currently looking into doing that, but of course it requires a lot of cooperation from financial side as well. For example, at some point debt comes in and you need a proper sort of capital stack to support the process going forward. And I think that's a learning for the VC world as well, to be these asset heavy kind of business models. And collaboration is probably the key. So we're trying to be of assistance to companies who are doing exactly that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what if you could wish for a startup to pop up? Is there something you go on about, like, oh, I just wish I came across this startup doing that? Do you have something like this in mind?
I think we came across a lot of startups that did what we wanted to see in the market. How do I put this? There's lots of variety, and we're happy to talk to everyone who is active in the space. So they're all doing something right, and I think if we can just foster a vibrant community and learn from each other, that's great. So let's keep doing that.